Hi, good evening, everyone. Um, in today's session, we are going to go ahead and take the next set of questions. So we have already covered the questions from 1 to 15. And today I'm going to take questions from 16 to 20 to 30th. Now in this, I'm going to first start from 21st question. 16 to 20 is going to take a lot of time. So I want to first start from question number 21. And then I will pick up on question 16 to 20. So let me start by talking about question number 21. This says, for a positively sloped IES curve, which of the following statement is correct? So, a positively sloped LM curve. So then it says what happens when there is increase or decrease in the price level. That's the first option. So just see here. When I talk about the equation of the LM curve, the LM curve equation can be written as the supply of money is equal to the demand of money. Now, when I talk about the equation of demand of money, we can go ahead and we can write this as KY minus HI, and supply of money can be written as MS by P. Acha, in exam, sometimes what they will do is they will not give you the explicit format of the demand curve. Kabhi kabhi kya karte hain? Like just morning, I was looking into one of the questions of CUET also. They had given the demand curve equation as just this, right? This is what Blanchard will follow. This is what Dornbusch will follow. Sometimes they will write it like this also. Just understand all of these mean the same thing only. These are your formats where the demand function is not known. I don't know explicitly how my demand function will be. I just know that it's a function of interest rate, negative function of interest rate, and positive function of income. However, here I clearly know that it is a linear function of income and interest rate. I clearly can tell what the function is. Nevertheless, the process remains the same. जिस तरीके से हम इसको solve करेंगे, everything will remain the same. Now, it is saying what happens when there is going to be a decrease in the price level. So just see, if price level is going to decrease, then M by P is going to increase, right? Money curve, right? And when the supply of money curve will shift rightwards, it means that your interest rate is going to decrease in the economy. The interest rate will decrease. So what will happen? This happens correspondingly. If I just look into my LM curve, whenever there is increase in the supply of money, the LM curve will shift rightwards. Or we can also say that the LM curve will shift downwards. So what we can go ahead and say is that when there is going to be decrease in the price level, the LM curve will shift to the right. So this statement is incorrect. It should shift to the right. Right. Now let's go to the next option. So this says that a lower supply of money will shift the LM curve to the right. Again, this is incorrect. When the supply of money decreases, it means that the LM curve will shift leftwards. It will shift backwards. So this is also an incorrect statement. An increase in price level will shift the LM curve to the right. So now look here. Now I am saying that the price level is increasing. So when the price level will increase, then M by P will decrease. If M by P will decrease, it means that the LM curve should shift backward or leftward. So this is also incorrect. Now look here. A higher money supply will shift the LM curve to the right. Yes, that is in fact the correct option, that it will shift the LM curve to the right. ये एकदम ठीक option है, huh? So that's the answer to this question. Okay, just come to the next question, beta. This says, consider an economy that produces only apples and bananas. The following table per unit is given to you and the quantity is also given. Assuming 2010 as the base year and using GDP deflator to calculate annual inflation rate, which of the following option is correct? थोड़ा सा समझते हैं. Whenever you talk about GDP deflator, in very simple terms, GDP deflator can be given as, the formula for GDP deflator can be given as nominal GDP upon real GDP. Acha, beta, into 100 is just when you go ahead and want it in form of percentage. So into 100 karo ya na karo does not really matter, right? Anyways, you're going to go ahead and get the right result. So now it goes ahead and says that you need to calculate the inflation rate for 2011 and the inflation rate for 2012. ये दो options हमें calculate करने हैं. So just look here. This is very interesting to see. Note that if I am going from 2010 to 2011, when I go from 10 to 11, I am seeing that the prices are remaining the same. They are exactly the same. There is no change in the price, right? So if there is no change in price from 2010 to 11, even if I don't calculate anything, I would know that there is no inflation that has taken place. Inflation has to be zero. Because I can clearly see, I don't even have to solve anything. I can clearly see that the price of apple and banana has been the same. So if the price has been the same, then there is going to be no inflation that will come into the economy. Now what we can go ahead and we can do is, we can quickly plot this table. So let me just plot a table here. I can take year here, and year can be 2010, 2011. In 2010, बच्चे, I cannot compare inflation. ना मतलब to compare inflation is the change in prices, right? So I cannot compare inflation in 2010. I need a base year for it. I can only compare it for 11 and 12, whether inflation has increased or decreased, right? So for 12, we can say that what has happened, or 11, I can say what has happened, but 10 kila, I can say anything. The GDP deflator of the base year is always zero. So in that sense, you can say that, deflator is zero. The base year there is no deflation, but inflation ke baare mein we can't comment because we don't have a comparison with the previous years. Okay. So I'm going to take year as 2010, 11, and 12. And then I am given that the price of apple, it is given to me as 100, 1. Price of apple is 112. And I'm given that the price of banana, that is 2, 2, and 4. And I'm given quantity of apple as 100, 200, 200. And I'm given quantity of banana as 50, 100, and 100. Right? Now what I can do is I can find out my GDP of the nominal part, right? Nominal GDP is always when you multiply your quantity with the current year prices. So mane for 2010, nominal GDP will be 1 into 100 plus 2 into 50. That means it will be 200. For 2011, nominal GDP will be 1 into 200 plus 2 into 100. That means 400. For 2012, nominal GDP will be 2 into 200, 400 ho gaya, plus 4 into 100, 400. So that means 800. So nominal GDP will always be the current year price into the current quantity. So this into this plus this into this, this into this plus this into this, this into this plus this into this. Ye ho gaya nominal GDP. Now when we talk about GDP in the real terms, beta. So real GDP is when you will take price of the base year. So price हमेशा यही रहेगा. You will always take this price. And you will multiply the corresponding quantities. So this year mein to, because earlier also I had taken these prices only, I will get the real GDP also as 200. But if you look into the next year, you will find that this is going to be 200 into 1. So that is 200 plus 100 into 2, that means again 200. So I will get 400. And if I look for the third year, you will find it is 200 into 1, 200 plus 100 into 2, that means 400. Then you can find GDP deflator. So GDP deflator can be nominal GDP upon real GDP. GDP. So nominal GDP is 200 and real is also 200. So for the first year, GDP deflator will be 1, or if I multiply by 100, 100%. Now, if I look into the second year, if I look into the GDP deflator of 2011, so nominal GDP is 400 and real GDP is also 400. So 400 by 400 is 1. You can multiply by 100, so 100%. Same. If I look of GDP deflator of 2012 beta, so I will get nominal by real. That means I will get the answer as 2 into 100. That means this is what is going to happen to my GDP deflators. Okay. Beta, whenever, if nothing is given to you, although it has been given in the question, देखो यहाँ पर तो दिया हुआ है that assuming 2010 as the base year, हाँ. But even if it is not given, तो जो सबसे ऊपर वाला year होगा ना, we will assume that to be the base year. If it is not given, but here it is given that 2010 is the base year. Right. So what we can see that when we look into GDP deflator, it remained 100 in 2010 also and 11 also. So there was no change in GDP deflator, no change. Change is 0. Again, proving that there is no inflation. So the first option is absolutely correct, that the GDP deflator for year 2011 is 100. That is what we found out. And inflation rate is 0%. Okay. Actually, in exam, you have to calculate GDP deflator. क्योंकि देखो सिर्फ अगर मैं numbers को देखती, had I just seen this and this, I see inflation as 0. But you see now that with inflation 0, you get these two answers. यहाँ पे भी inflation 0 लिखा और यहाँ पे भी. Then you can either use this macroeconomics concept that, if inflation is 0, it means that GDP deflator should be equal to base year value. Right? So you can simply go ahead and say कि क्योंकि inflation 0 रहा, prices have remained unchanged, even without calculating this entire thing, you would know कि this implies that there should be the same value of GDP deflator that was of the base year. माने the GDP deflator has to be the same, that is 100. So this is another way in which you can go ahead and solve this question. Okay, beta, come to the next part. So this says, which of the following is not correct in context of open economy ISLM curve? अब देखो, open economy का we have seen a lot of factors. So what are the things that we have learned? पहले सब एक बारी मैं jot down कर देती हूँ. अच्छा, yes, beta. You can just note this down, that if GDP deflator remains unchanged, from base year to next year, it implies inflation rate is 0%. Vice versa is also true. If inflation rate is 0%, it implies GDP deflator will be equal to last year's value. Last year's GDP deflator. हाँ बेटा. So either ways you can have a look into it. You can just make a note of this statement. Let me know when I can go ahead. Okay. Now let's go to the next question. So now it is saying that, you are given open economy and it is asking which of the following is not correct. See, floating exchange rate and perfect capital mobility is related. We know the following. So if it is floating exchange rate and perfect capital mobility, we know that fiscal policy is ineffective, and we know that monetary policy is fully effective. Beta, please, Mundale Fleming, all 12 cases, you will revise. So when we say that, when we are talking about floating exchange rate and when we are talking about perfect capital mobility, we can say that fiscal policy is ineffective and monetary policy is completely effective. So based on this, the first part, देखो, expansionary fiscal policy is ineffective, उसकी बात नहीं करेंगे. Expansionary monetary policy would depreciate the domestic value. तो अब हम expansionary monetary policy को check कर लेते हैं एक बारी. So if this is my IS, this is my LM, and this is my BP curve, and it is saying expansionary monetary policy. So it means I will go to LM dash. So I will go from point A to point B. At point B, your interest rate in the economy is less. It has decreased, right? So there will be capital outflow. Right? Interest rate कम हो गया, सारा पैसा बाहर जा रहा है. When there will be capital outflow, your currency will depreciate. There will be depreciation of your currency. So this statement that there is going to be an expansionary monetary policy and it will go ahead and depreciate your currency, this is correct statement. Correct. Actually, let me look into the first one also once. It says expansionary fiscal policy would appreciate domestic currency. It is not talking about whether it is effective or non-effective. So एक बारी मैं ये भी देख लेती हूँ. So it says expansionary fiscal policy. This is my BP. This is my IS. This is my LM. Now there is expansionary fiscal policy, which means IS curve will shift rightwards better. So your interest rate will increase. Now, when your IS will shift rightward, it means your interest rate will increase. When your interest rate will increase, you are giving more interest. There will be inflow of your capital. सबको आपकी country में invest करना है. So there will be capital inflow. When there will be capital inflow, your currency will appreciate. And when your currency will appreciate, what will happen? Your net exports will decrease. So because your net export decreases, your IS curve will shift backwards. So it shifts rightwards and then it shifts backward. But yes, in the process, the currency has appreciated. So this statement is actually correct that there will be appreciation of the currency. I didn't read the statement. Had it been that output will increase, so it was ineffective. But of course, currency will appreciate. So that's a correct statement. Come to the third statement now. In question number 22, A is the correct option. Yes, beta, A is correct. In question number 23, beta, it says now floating exchange rate. Dekho, floating exchange rate. So floating means flexible. So I'm off. It is floating, flexible exchange rate, not fixed. Okay. So this is statement A is correct. Statement B is correct. Now let us go to statement number C. Part A. Yes. This is the explanation of part A. So what this is saying now that there is expansionary fiscal policy. So fiscal policy expansion means G increases. So your IS curve is shifting to the right. When IS is shifting to the right, the interest rate is increasing. When interest rate increases, सारा capital का inflow हो जाएगा. So capital inflows. When capital inflows, your currency will appreciate. That's the explanation. This is what I've written. Just make a note, huh? Done? Okay. Now look into the third one. It says exchange rate has significant impact on determining the equilibrium level of income and employment in the country. और last देखो, monetary policy is fully effective in determining the employment, whereas fiscal policy is ineffective. ये भी true statement है बेटा. This is what I have stated here. That fiscal policy is ineffective and monetary policy is completely effective. So which means that the only option we are left up with is C. This is the only option which is incorrect out of all. And that is correct, right? Because does exchange rate always determine the amount of employment in the economy? No, right? That cannot be justified at all times. So we can go ahead and say that it may not always be true that exchange rate will determine the equilibrium level of income and employment in the economy, right? So the only option which seems incorrect is option number C. Here, yes, beta. Here I have Y here and I here, correct. In MSQ questions, all can be correct, but this is an MCQ question, na? Correct. That is what the question is asking, right, beta? Which of the following is not correct? So which is not correct? This is not correct. Remaining we proved to be correct. Okay. Let's go to the next question. It says, among the following statement, which of the following is correct? Statement number 1. Structural unemployment arises between two jobs. The first job which an individual has quit in order to find the second job. So we know that when an individual leaves the first job and he joins the second job, that is not structural unemployment. That is called as frictional unemployment, right? So the definition that is given here, leaving the first job and joining the second job, that is known as frictional unemployment. This is incorrect, beta. Look into the second one. It says frictional unemployment arises due to mismatch in vacancy and skill. No, if you don't have the right skill to join the job. So for example, if you don't know how to use computer, right? You know how to use typewriter, right? And the job is using computer, right? Then it is called as structural unemployment. So both the statements that have been given to you are actually a mismatch. दोनों ही उल्टी दी हुई हैं, right? A का B दिया हुआ और B का A. So ideally both the statements are incorrect. So option will be D. Okay. Come to the next question. So beta, this is a short question in every year's paper. Every year you will get a question on deficit and you have to know this question very well. तो ध्यान से देख लेते हैं. When I talk about fiscal, it is always total expenditure minus total revenue. If from fiscal deficit, you will go ahead and subtract the interest payment, then what you will be getting will be called as the primary deficit. It will become primary. And revenue deficit is only when you have revenue expenditure minus the revenue receipts. What are revenue expenditure and revenue receipt, beta? Where no asset or liability is involved. So revenue expenditure, okay, जैसे you are paying salary to the government employees, or revenue receipt will be where you have collected through taxes, right? Or it can be through, say, money collected through some penalty charged on people who are paying late tax, or some toll tax collected. No asset or liability is involved. Then that is revenue in nature. So what we can say then? We can go ahead and say that revenue deficit में word ढूंढना है हमें revenue. So I can say revenue expenditure and government revenue receipt. So for B, it should be 1. Fiscal में beta we will have total. So it should be C. And primary में less interest payment. So it should be 2. That will be the answer to this question. It is included. Borrowing is included beta. Total borrowings are included. ठीक है? Okay. Now, the next thing that we want to go ahead and do is this question. Very, very excellent question. It is somewhat related to one of the lecture where we had taken about growth model. Actually, this is not related to solo. मतलब जिसको solo नहीं भी आता, they will be able to do this question. But you have to look into the question very carefully. बहुत बहुत हमें minutely देखना है इस question को. Why? Because note that you are given per capita output. मतलब you are given YT by LT. But you are given capital divided by output. ध्यान से देखो. In solo model, जब हम solo model करते हैं, what do? We define small k as k by L. We define small y as y by L. तो हम solo model easily कर पाते हैं. This is how we do solo model. In this question, they haven't given you k by L as small k. That is what the trick is all about. They have given you k by y. और वहीं पे सब कुछ हम लोगों को ध्यान से एक बारी देखना है. So now let's start solving this. So I am starting with my production function. I am given y is equal to a, k to the power alpha, L to the power 1 minus alpha. This is asking me about the growth rate. देखो ध्यान से. It is asking me about per capita output growth rate. And how is growth rate defined? So we define growth rate. If you remember, अगर मेरे को किसी भी variable x की growth rate define करनी है, I will define this by x dot by x. मतलब change in the variable upon the original value of the variable that will be used to define the growth rate. This is how I can define it. On very similar, and this is actually with respect to time. So I can write it like this also. And whenever we have to find the growth rate of something, so what is the best trick of doing it? You can take log of that and then you can differentiate it with respect to t. So you will get 1 by x dx by dt. So this will become x dot by x. So whenever we want to define the growth rate of anything, the best thing that we can go ahead and do, and but it is not solo model because it is not asking any steady state. ना कुछ नहीं बोला ऐसा. उन्होंने सिर्फ ग्रोथ रेट मांगा है. उन्होंने कहीं नहीं बोला दैट फाइंड स्टेडी स्टेट लेवल, फाइंड दिस, फाइंड, ऐसा कुछ नहीं बोला. दिस इज जस्ट अ प्योर मैथमेटिकल क्वेश्चन वेयर दे आर सेइंग फाइंड पर कैपिटा आउटपुट ग्रोथ. राइट? स्टेडी स्टेट बोलते देन वी वुड हैव थॉट अबाउट सोलो मॉडल. दैट्स व्हाई. ठीक है. अच्छा, नाउ जस्ट कम बैक. So the one way of solving growth rate is when you take log and differentiate it with respect to time. बस इतना ही करना है इस क्वेश्चन में. So now look here very carefully. What I'm doing is, before taking log, because I want these things in small y and small k terms, I am going to divide both sides by L. That's my first step. So this simply becomes small y because small y is defined as y by L. तो इसको हमने small y बोल दिया. This is capital A, k to the power alpha. And if I look into this part, then this can be written as L to the power alpha. ठीक है? If you just take it in the denominator, you will get L to the power alpha. Now just look here. I can say small y is equal to A, k by L to the power alpha. But बहुत ध्यान से हमें समझना है, the small k that I have been given, इसको तो k by y से हमने define किया. We have defined it by k by y. So I cannot write this as small k. In solo model, we used to write this as small k. यहाँ नहीं लिखना है because small k is defined as capital output ratio. So I am going to define this as some other k. इसको हम बस k कर्ल करके to the power alpha कर देते हैं. Where this k curl, this is k by l. अभी के लिए just to simplify things. Now what can I do? I can just take log on both sides जैसे हम usually करते हैं. So take log. So ln y will be ln a k curl to the power alpha. Just use the usual rule that log mn is log m plus log n. Just open this up, beta. This is going to be ln a. Power will come down. Ln k curl. This will be ln y. इतना हो गया. Now we have to find the growth rate. बड़ा simple है. Just differentiate it and differentiate it with respect to time, and that's done. So if I just go ahead and differentiate this with respect to t, what will I get? I will get 1 by y dy by dt is equal to 1 by a dA by dt plus alpha 1 by k curl dk curl by dt. I am almost close to what we want to find out. ये तो हो जाएगा बच्चे y dot by y. This will be 1 by a. ये वाला part हो गया a dot. Change in value with respect to time plus alpha. ये हो जाएगा k curl dot by k curl. So this will be growth rate of y is equal to growth rate of a plus alpha growth rate of k curl. Growth rate of k curl. अब मुझे किसी तरीके से बस इस k curl को वापस k में convert करना है. I need to convert this in terms of small k. This is what I have to do. So how did I define k curl? K curl was k by l. हमने throughout l से divide किया था. What is k? The k explained in the question is k by y. तो अगर मुझे इसको इसमें convert करना है, what can I do? I can just divide and multiply by y. And यहां से मुझे मिल जाएगा बेटा k by y into y by l. ये वाला जो पार्ट है, this is what is given to me in the question ना. तो यही तो small k है जो क्वेश्चन में डिफाइंड है. और ये वाला जो पार्ट है मुझे गिवन है, दिस इज ऑल्सो गिवन टू मी इन द क्वेश्चन. यही तो वो पार्ट है क्वेश्चन में विच इज डिफाइंड एज योर y. So base small y. So basically what we have gone ahead and done in this case is that we have converted this k curl in a term that is given to me in the question. That's it. Now if I just find the growth rate of this k curl, I am sorted. So I know that k curl is equal to k into y. So we can say that if I take log on both sides, ln k curl will be ln ky. So now just, open this up. Ln k curl will be ln k plus ln y. And just find out the growth rate. So 1 by k curl dk curl by dt is equal to 1 by k dk by dt plus 1 by y dy by dt. बेटा ये हो गया ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ k और ये हो गया ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ y और ये हो गया ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ k कर्ल. सो वी हैव गॉट कि ये जो ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ k कर्ल है ना, दिस इज नथिंग बट ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ k प्लस y. This needs to be replaced here. Because the question that is asked, it is in terms of the growth rates of k and y. So I have to take it back to this level. That is why we just did this. तो अब यहाँ से just इसको simplify कर लेते हैं. If I just replace this, I will get growth rate of y is equal to growth rate of a plus alpha, growth rate of k plus growth rate of y. So I will get growth rate of a plus alpha growth rate of k plus alpha growth rate of y. Just take this term here and you shall be able to get 1 minus alpha growth rate of y is equal to this. So your growth rate of y will be 1 upon 1 minus alpha growth rate of A plus alpha upon 1 minus alpha growth rate of K. This is the answer to this question. Just check this. If you will check this, you will be able to see that this, I think it is matching. I think it matches the A part. The answer will be A. So what is tricky in this question is that अभी तक हमने ये सोलो मॉडल में ऐसा कुछ किया है. But what we have done in this case is that this is just where we have got this in per capita terms. But जो हमारा output था वो per capita terms में नहीं था. The output was, capital was not in per capita terms. Capital was given to me in capital output ratio. बस यही वाला जो part है वो tricky है, right? So I will just note down the steps for you once more. क्या किया है हमने? Just have a look here. But I am given that my production function is yt is equal to a, k to the power alpha, l to the power 1 minus alpha. The first thing that I have done is I have divided throughout by L. When I divide it throughout by L, I will get, ये तो small y का definition given है question में. So I will get small y is equal to A, k to the power alpha by L to the power alpha. This will be A, k by L to the power alpha. This will be like this. Achha, one more way of doing this. If you find taking k curl difficult, यहीं पर directly भी आप इसको थोड़ा better कर सकते हो. जैसे for example, if you just want to ease this out, यहीं पे you can just say that this will be just multiply and divide by y. Right? So if you go ahead and do this, you can also go ahead and say that this is k by y into y by L to the power alpha. तो ये हो जाएगा a, ये k by y will become small k, y by L will become small y to the power alpha. Right? So that is also another way in which you can go ahead and solve this question. अब तो और आसान हो गया. So you just have got that y is equal to a ky to the power alpha. Then just take log on both sides and solve. Right? So ln y will be ln a ky to the power alpha. This will be ln a plus alpha ln ky. तो growth rate ऐसे भी निकाल सकते हो. So this is another way in which you can just solve this. You cannot replace k by L with small k beta. That is what I am mentioning here, because small k is defined as k by y. It is defined here, no? So you can't replace k by L with small k. So this, once you have got this, then just differentiate throughout. Okay. Yes. This is what I've done. Yes, beta, you can do that. See here, this is what I've done here. You can initially only just multiply and divide with y. This part. So this becomes small k, this becomes small y. So you get a new production function which looks like this. Then you can just find the growth rate from this production. Correct. You can do that. If this is what you're asking. Okay. So यहाँ से just solve this. So ln a plus alpha, ln k plus alpha, ln y, this will be ln y. Do a total differentiation with respect to time, you will get the answer. Okay, so that's the answer to this question. Let us come to the next question. So see here, beta. It is important that you remember all the years, that which, which thing came in which year. And if you see, I have mentioned most of them in my lecture on money. Please go ahead and look into that lecture. So the Reserve Bank of India, it came on 1st of April 1934 through an act. And this was in Calcutta. So this is before independence. Then you have your SEBI. Your SEBI actually came in 1992. Then you have your Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India. That came in 1999. and then you have the Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India that came in 2016. But most of the time सब कुछ याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं होती है. You can get the right answer through elimination also. कैसे eliminate कर सकते हैं हम? अगर हमें important चीजें याद है कि when was SEBI formed, जैसे for example, या for example, if I know when was RBI formed, right? When was Nifty, when was other institutes, important institutes formed, right? जैसे EXIM, right? ये कुछ important institutes है जिनका establishment याद रखना जरूरी है. So if I know SEBI and RBI, you notice that you will be able to solve this question very, very easily. You don't need any other information for this question, right? Actually, you should know that Reserve Bank of India was one of those institutes which was formed before independence. बहुत सारे institutes नहीं थे before independence, but Reserve Bank of India was formulated before independence itself, right? तो एक ये चीज काफी important है. And then if you notice, if I know SEBI and if I know that it came in 1992, then B is linked to 3 and A to 2 only in this option, D option. तो it's okay, no need to panic कि अगर यहाँ पे और कुछ आ जाता तो क्या करते. They will always put in some options which are very, very common. You have to try to eliminate other things कि A2 और B3 कहाँ पे आ रहा है. Just have a look there and just solve that question accordingly. Okay, now let me just take you through the next question.